Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 258 for the 29th of September 2013. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. And what's on the show this week? I catch up with a very good friend of mine, George Hrab. Geo, the man himself from the Geologic podcast and many fine albums. George Hrab will discuss various things like what it's like to MC the amazing meeting, what it's like to front a huge band and do gigs, and what it's like to have a skeptical podcast. A long and rambling chat with George Hrab coming up at the top of the show. Also on this week's show, a week in science from the Royal Institution of Australia, as we like to say, www.riaus.org.au. And Paul Willis back again. Don't forget you can meet Paul Willis at the upcoming Australian Skeptics National Convention. Oh, yes, and I've got to tell you that today and tomorrow, I think that's about right, it's your last chance to get the early bird tickets. Save some money. There's the hint. If you haven't booked yet for the National Convention coming up in Canberra on the 22nd of November, book quick. You can still book after that, but it's cheaper to book right now. And in fact, the ticket prices go up on the 1st of October. Then we have Stefan Sojka, our co-host on the Skeptic Zone periodically. He's written a great song all about, back care. Encouraging people to be careful with their spines. It's called Mind Your Back. You can download it from iTunes, and Dr. Stefan Sojka will be along soon to tell us all about that. Mind Your Back. And to round off the show, I chat with Michael Kruse from Bad Science Watch in Canada. And Bad Science Watch do a great job taking their concerns to the Canadian government. And in this case, he's going to discuss their campaign against the lunacy, which is homeopathy. In the 21st century, we're still fighting this. If I just clear a space now on my desk here, somebody made a comment that they thought it was funny when I head desked. So let me see. Thinks of homeopathy. Ow! There you go. Now, coming up on next week's show, before we get into this week's show, Dr. Raichi reports. Congratulations to Dr. Raichi. She and some collaborators wrote a very important paper about blue-green algae and motor neuron disease, and the links there. It's very important. She's been all over the media, all over television and the press, and her phone's been ringing off the hook, as they used to say in the old days. And Dr. Raichi is preparing a special report about this for the Skeptic Zone to be broadcast next week. But you must understand, my friends, she has been run off her feet. The attention she has received for her important work, such important work. Not only is she, as you know, Dr. Raichi reports on the Skeptic Zone, but she is a very, very important scientist in her own right. So top marks, Dr. Raichi. And also, I think we're going to be covering pretty soon this breaking news today, where some chiropractors in this country have been rumbled, sneaking into hospitals to adjust patients. And also there's news about a baby whose neck was broken by a chiropractor. It's all very worrying. We'll try to cover that next week. But for now, let's get on to the Skeptic Zone. You know how I sometimes roll a dice and I say, well, what's it going to be? Choice of 20 numbers, and some of you get it right. Well, I thought I'd make it a bit easier. Heads or tails? Are you ready? Heads or tails? Here we go. Tails. Congratulations, all those people who picked tails. With that thought in our heads, I'm going to run downstairs, open the cupboard, and dive into that packet of peanut puffs I bought today at Aldi. When I used to eat them 20 years ago in Germany, I used to know them as Ethnos Flips. I think they're called something else in other parts of the world, but they're damn delicious. I better do that. Well, I'm doing that. I hope you enjoy The Skeptic Zone.
You ponder the universe and a look comes across your face. You try to fathom distances of all the stuff in space, but you can't wrap the bacon of your mind.
Well, folks, there are many great things that come out of a place called Bethlehem. There's a man that we all know, that some call him the Messiah. Yes, it's George Hrab. Hello, George.
What an introduction. Gosh, how can I ever live up to that? My goodness. Yeah, there's many good things out of Bethlehem, and there's George Hrab. That's what I was expecting for.
Yes. Do people often make Bethlehem jokes?
Usually I'm the first one to make a Bethlehem joke, for the most part. There is a giggle that is incorporated, or that usually follows when I'm at some convention, usually comprised of non-religious people, when I say I'm from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Just that's it right there. That giggle that usually comes along. And my one thing that I've always wanted to do, there is a hotel here, which is called the Hotel Bethlehem. And I've always wanted to go there Christmas Eve and just cause a ruckus about, complain. What do you mean there's no room?
Oh, no.
Yeah, so haven't got the gumption to do that yet. But one of these Christmas Eves, I'll do it. Maybe still. Yeah.
You could use the same beard you used at the last Tam, where you're imitating James Randi.
Oh yeah, it's perfect. Yes, my wise man outfit would be perfect for that. Yes, my Randy/wise man outfit.
Now you've been the MC for Tam now for, let me think, 3 years.
3 years. I keep fooling them into asking me back somehow. It's been an unbelievable ride. It's a strange honor, and it still boggles my mind that I'm standing there amongst my heroes, and I get to introduce them and tell them to stop talking. That's always the fun bit too. you got someone who's literally every word they've ever written I've read and have memorized or tried to memorize, and they're going 3 minutes over, and I have to kind of walk up and be like, all right, you're done. I'm going to move on. Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. It's a strange position of power to be in, but it's Tam is, as you know, Tam is just the best. And the last time I saw you, we were sitting in a lounge singing standards together.
Wow.
With a bunch of skeptics.
Yeah. One
of the most fun times I've had in a quite a long time. That was really a special fun night.
You know what? That was just fantastic. But for me especially, and I guess for you too, of course, it was the one time at Tam where we both, I guess, could really relax, because you were obviously busy doing the MC job. I was quite concerned with the $1 Million Challenge, and it wasn't until it was all over that I could forget everything, all my responsibilities.
Right. Oddly enough, it's at the very end, the last 50th of the weekend, you can sort of relax and enjoy it. But I very much appreciated your explanation of Waltzing Matilda. Your line-by-line explanation of Waltzing Matilda was really, really valuable to me, and I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm glad I could enlighten you, George.
It was great. I don't know if you remember that, but it was...
vaguely. I don't know.
Vaguely.
We sang so many songs that night. You know what struck me? I played the guitar myself, and many years ago when I worked in another job, I was working in a backpackers hostel. I'd get out the guitar and night, and the backpackers would want to sing this song or that song, and I'd be looking through books if I had them, or whatever I could remember. And I'm sitting there, and you've got your iPad in front of you, and whatever people wanted to hear or sing along to, you go, doot, 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 call it up, and away we'd go. That's just fantastic.
It's insane. I mean, it's insane that not only... It was this lovely sort of iPad farm that we had going, where I would look up the chords to a song, and then someone else would look up the lyrics, or multiple people would look up the lyrics, and then you'd kind of spread it out, and it was just this ultimate live karaoke interweb explosion of happiness. And it's one of the beautiful things of the web is that there is such a resource now. I have a couple apps that have lots of songs on them, chord changes and things, but you literally can just Google any name of any song and the word chords after it, and 98% of the time you're going to find something. It might not be totally accurate, but it'll get you started. So that was really impressive, and it's certainly a big change from 20 years ago when
if I didn't know what the song was and I didn't have a book with it, which was usually the case, and I'd say, well, no, let's play another song.
Right.
Now, let's speak about Nexus. This is very exciting because I'm working myself up. I'm attempting to be there for the first time, which is the conference there in New York. I've heard such good things about it, but it's not quite a TAM, is it?
It's not quite a TAM, and it has a little bit of a different vibe from a TAM. It's not as big, which is sort of nice in a way. The Nexuses that I've experienced, the Nexi that I've experienced have all been unique and fun. There's some nice evening activities, too, that are kind of incorporated involving different sort of skeptical or scientific-related things, some artistic things. It's a really nice vibe. It's a very kind of New York vibe, which it's hard to explain the difference between kind of like a Las Vegas crowd and a New York crowd. But I thoroughly enjoy Nexus very much. Of course, then anything that the sort of the novellas are involved in usually has a certain level of quality that you are guaranteed to have. So that's always nice. And I'm looking forward to it as always. And it'll be great. It'll be your first time. So hopefully that can happen. Hopefully you can come and experience all that is New York.
I interviewed Evan Bernstein a couple of weeks ago, and I said I have no fear about walking around New York because I'll have George Hrab to protect me.
That's it. Yeah, you'll be good, and yeah, that'll work out good. As long as you can run as fast as I can, you'll be fine. So yeah,
I'll just follow you. That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's very exciting because I do enjoy, and I know you do enjoy the conventions because not only is it a chance to see old friends, but we can also, as I like to say, we can also be part of the choir. We can sit there and listen to other people impart such interesting and new information.
Yeah, there's always some little bit of something that you've never quite thought about, or some information, or some study, or some perspective that you've never sort of pictured or had in your mind before that always comes across at these conventions. And it's always like, to me, a new idea is this invaluable thing. So if you spend an entire weekend somewhere and you get literally like one or two new ideas in your head, I mean, that to me is priceless. I think that's such a cool thing to have, and it's something that's very unique to an event like that you might get this different perspective on something, or just be like, I've never thought of it that way, or wow, what a cool piece of information. I can use this in whatever, how I approach things, or how I debate things, or how I argue things, and you're guaranteed. And usually this happens like once per talk, if not once per day. So it's really cool.
And just to give our listeners a little bit of an insight into something like a big event like a TAM or a Nexus, when I was about to talk at the last TAM, my main talk on the stage there, backstage with you, it's always quite amusing because we're sort of talking in low tones so we don't spoil the illusion of whatever it is, and we're trying to make jokes. It's a unique experience, isn't it?
The backstage has always fascinated me. The sort of the line where the proscenium starts and the backstage stops. That 1.5, 2 feet is sort of philosophically so interesting. That you literally see people sort of become their stage persona as they step across this magic line.
Yeah.
I love it. As someone that performs, I love that because that's about as close to sort of actual magic as you get in terms of the transformation of someone, or like a space being like a magical space. So the whole backstage thing is always fun. I kind of take it upon myself to try to help a person who's going to be speaking. If they're an experienced speaker, then it's fine. Very often at TAM, you have people that are speaking for the first time in front of 1,000 people. You might have someone that has done lectures for 20, 30, 100 people. But when someone is going to be in front of 1,300 people for the first time, they can get quite rightfully intimidated and nervous. And it's always a fun hospitality challenge for me to let them relax, let them know like it's going to be fine, it's going to be great. You're prepared. These people want you to do well. The audience wants you to do well. And if I can impart a little bit of comfort into someone that's going to be doing a talk, it always makes me very happy. And that's kind of part of the unseen job that I have. Yeah, I get to go out on stage and be silly and do stupid segues and whatever. But the real fun for me sometimes is to meet someone backstage, help them kind of just get slightly prepped, and then, write a haiku or a song about them in a few minutes and then present it. So, yeah, I love it. I love it. It's such a unique. I really do feel like I'm kind of a fan ambassador in a weird way, that I'm still such a fanboy of so many of these speakers and presenters and so many of the concepts that are being presented, that I get to represent the sort of the regular attendee, and I act like this. I'm like a little, ambassador. I'm just this sort of this island of reality and fandom that's backstage that gets to observe, and I always like to report sort of what it's like and what people are actually like, and it's so pleasant to say that for the vast majority, people are as cool as you would hope they are. You've read someone's book and you hope they're just nice, and then you get to meet them and you realize, oh, they're actually nicer than you would think. Whether it's you, whether it's any of the people that have become my friends, whether it's the novellas or what, it's just so great to kind of have this confirmation that, oh, these are cool people. Like, yay, there's very, very few jerks. Yes, there are jerks, but apart from me, there's very few jerks that are at these events. And it's just nice to get that confirmation.
But your performing in your musicianship is quite something. And I've been to one of your little concerts. And what I mean by that is the intimate ones in a pub or something like that, where it's just you and a microphone and a guitar, and away you go. And I thoroughly enjoyed those because you sing all your hits. But what I haven't seen, and what I hope I will see at some stage, is the full-blown thing. This whole performing with the Philadelphia Thunk Authority, say that 6 times quickly.
Yeah.
What's that like as an experience? That must be just mind-blowing.
It is tremendous. It's to be in a large band, that band is anywhere from 9 to like 11 pieces. To be in a large band that plays well and that is tight and that has a fun performance and has an audience that is receptive and is playing material that is just so fun and interesting and always gets a great response, it's the best. For the fact that, and I say this all the time, but the fact that is my quote unquote day job, that is my gig. To play drums in this band is beyond exciting and special, and I know and realize how fortunate I am to be in an organization like that. I mean, it's a band that I played drums in. We specialize in soul, R&B, funk music, stuff that's designed to make people dance and have a good time. We try to recreate all of these incredible songs from the 70s and 80s and 90s and beyond, but mostly we sort of focus on Motown and 70s. A time when you had actual human beings on stage performing and playing their instruments for real. And we really pride ourselves that, we've got 3 horn players and they're playing these parts and they're playing their brains out, trying to make these things sound good. And there's nothing quite like having 9 individuals play their instruments really, really well and kind of gel into this event. It's the best. I marvel at it. We just had a park concert, one of our last, as the season as the warmer season ends up here in the States. We do fewer and fewer park concerts, and one of our last ones was about a week and a half ago. And, it was 2,000 people in the audience. We're playing on this huge, beautiful stage, a great sound system, and we're just destroying it. And I kind of looked over at some other players and I'm still amazed that this is my day job. This is what we do. And it's just great. It's just as magical as that backstage area is, when once to twice a night you get about 15 to 20 seconds of everything really perfectly lining up, and you find the groove, and the groove just it just destroys you. It literally gives you chills. I mean, it happens, like I said, if it happens for 20 seconds in one 4-hour show, it's a good night. But you get this thing, and it is so unique to creating art and creating music in the moment, and I love it. I'm completely addicted. Well,
that's your day job, I guess we could say, but also known all around the world for the Geologic podcast. Goodness me, how long's that been going now?
It's like 6 years now. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. We just crossed 300 shows. We're about 333 shows. It's nuts. I never thought it would go this long. I never thought I would get the response that I get. I never thought that, because of the show, I would get to be, in Brisbane playing a solo gig. I mean, which is literally, it's because of the show that you got to see me play in a pub, in Australia. It's again, I'm just so fortunate.
Was it originally a skeptical show, or just a George Hrab show, or a musical?
Yeah,
what was your thinking?
And it's still not really. To me, it's not a skeptical show. It's a show that's done by a guy who's a skeptic.
Right.
I've never I don't want to say the last thing I thought was that it would be a skeptical show, but it was. I knew it was going to be through the prism of a guy that has a certain amount of sort of skepticism. Yeah. A large amount of skepticism within everything he does, but I never intended it to be, science, skepticism show, comedy podcast show. It was just me blathering about stuff, and the stuff that I find interesting, a lot of it happens to deal with science and skepticism and critical thinking. And I still, to me, it is a brain sorbet. That if you're into skepticism and you're into science and you want like another show along those lines, but you don't want it to be super hard hitting skepticism, you listen to me be silly for a little bit, maybe tell a few stories about playing in bands or some observation or talk to my mom or whatever. And that you're not going to cringe. You'll cringe for many reasons, but you will never cringe because the science is bad or because I'm talking about energy or I'm talking about ghosts or something incredulous.
Right.
So I think it provides a certain, you can relax and you can cringe at me being embarrassed with some situation that has occurred, but the cringing will never be like, oh boy, another example of a credulous, person and not questioning a ghost story or whatever. So I think that's been my role within the skeptic kind of community or the science podcast community, and I gladly sort of take that role. But I've never, and I have to remind people of that sometimes when I get emails about, why aren't you talking about this, or why don't you interview these people, or why isn't there more science or whatever. It's kind of like, this was never meant to be that. I don't want it to solely be that. And if I want to have an interlude where I try to recreate all the parts of a Pink Floyd album, like, I'm going to do it because it's my prerogative, And fortunately, there's enough weirdos out there that enjoy that kind of programming. So I'm very lucky. The time I had in Australia, those whatever that was 9 days I had. I mean, in terms of overall 9 days of awesomeness, it's amongst the best 9 days of my life. It's just, I've had events, I've had concerts and individual sort of things that have happened that have been amazing throughout my life. I'm very lucky in that way. But boy, to go to Melbourne and Brisbane and Sydney and Adelaide and Christchurch and Cairns and visit all these places, it was just, and to have the reception I did, I can't wait to get back. I can't wait to get back.
Oh, it's been far too long, George. It's been far too long. I think you should start eyeing up a possible return visit.
Okay, I will start planning. I will start saving the pennies now. Although, in the meantime, if people in Australia are interested to see kind of what I'm about, or first off, they can, of course, tune into the Geologic Podcast every week, geologicpodcast.com, if they haven't yet already. But I have this new DVD out that I'm really, really proud of and really happy. It's called 21812, and it features the Geologic Orchestra, which is kind of like the funk band. It's a lot of the same guys that are in the funk band, but they're doing my material. We filmed a 2.5-hour concert about 1.5 years ago, and the DVD is out. It features a bunch of my songs, and it also features our mutual friend Phil Plait. He sings on one of the songs, or he narrates one of the songs, I should say, the one that's named after his book, Death from the Skies.
Oh, right,
the song,
yes.
of course, is called Death from the Skies, and he does it live, and it's a really, really cool sort of culmination of having the actual bad astronomer himself here in Bethlehem narrating this song about the ways the world could end through different astronomical phenomena. It's very, very fun. I have already sent a boatload of these to Australia, and so far the reviews have been very, very positive, which is warms my heart very much.
And how can people get a copy of the DVD?
If they go to cdbaby.com/George Hrab, my name, H-R-A-B, George Hrab, cdbaby.com/George Hrab, you can get the DVD sent right to your house. And it's, you can also tune into the Geologic podcast, and we had the first hour of audio was in my show for free. You can just, if you want to hear what it sounds like and see if it's interesting, you can listen to it, and then you can order it if you're interested. Again, it's a fun time. I'm really pleased with it. Getting back to that idea of actual human beings actually performing live. It's a less frequently seen thing. And it's just a nice testament to the guys in the band and how well they play and how well the performance came across. So check it out. I'm very happy with it.
I must admit, I started listening to the 365 Days of Astronomy podcast. Ooh, when did that start? Way back in 2008, I think.
Something like that,
it took me a little while to realize that the theme song was actually you, and I didn't. This little nugget escaped me until I saw the video clip, and I thought, why is George doing this? Oh, it's him. You know?
Yeah.
And I was so impressed that you went out there by yourself with a camera and made a really fun film clip. And it's sort of like, I've seen it so many times now. I sort of feel like it's Abbey Road. When I went to London 25 years ago, I walked across the zebra crossing at Abbey Road. If I ever go to Bethlehem, I want to go to the rooftop where George Hrab was wearing the silly hats.
We will do it, my friend. Yes, when you come to New York, we'll take a day trip down to Bethlehem, and we'll get you on the rooftop. And yeah, you'll walk down Main Street, and we'll get you on the rooftop. Yeah, that video was, it was such a fun experiment to literally do a one-man. I mean, I had no crew. I had to set the camera up. I had to walk into the shot. I had to edit it all together, and another testament to technology. The fact that a clueless drummer from Bethlehem can cut together a video. That's thanks to Apple. That has very little to do with me. It's the ease with which video production can be done nowadays. That thing has gotten some very lovely numbers of hits and responses. Kids love it. That's to me, which is so fun. I mean, I have parents send me videos of their kids dancing to my video. I have probably a dozen or more sort of video clips of children there is nothing more purely filled with joy than a kid just dancing, 5, 10-year-olds, whatever, kids just boogieing, and it's fun. I do look back at that every now and then, and I kind of think, like, how did I do that? Like, if I had to recreate that would be quite a quite a task to refilm it and redo it. But it's the exuberance of ignorance. You dive into a project not having any clue how difficult it is, and your exuberance kind of carries you through. It's almost like a inertia kind of carries you through the project, and you realize, oh, cool. So when we were doing the 21812 DVD, it was a similar kind of thing. You sort of you think what's going to be involved in doing a 2+ hour video shoot, and then you get into the middle of it, and it's like, oh my gosh, there is just so much to do, but every step is exciting because it gets you 1 inch closer to the final product. So.
Well, I'm a particular fan, as you know, of the song "Far." I think it's a really, really clever song. It's so much so that "Far" is the song that they listen to on the
solar flare. I know. My gosh, I'm so honored. Honored. Yeah, it's great.
Well, George, it's all good. It's so fun to listen to the Geologic podcast and see your DVDs. You're a man of many hats, as we could see on the video, I might say.
Yes,
and,
literally.
Yes. Literally, and I'm sure that we normally catch up at least once, if we're lucky. Sometimes, or if I'm lucky, sometimes twice a year. I'm sure that's going to be the story for the next 20 years.
I know, isn't that funny? And yet it's like no time has passed. It's like any sort of family or good friendship. I think it's that kind of relationship that you foster sort of in the trenches, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Those are the most special ones. It's Maynard and I were just talking about this. How I've spoken to Maynard a total of 70 minutes maybe over the course of whatever, 5 years, maybe 2-3 hours, maybe if you add up all of our conversations, and yet he feels like a relative. And if I were to see him in the next 5 minutes, we would totally just be on the same page. Same with you, same with all my sort of friends, Dr. Raichi or anybody that you sort of bump into once a year. But it's just so nice that the conversation and the relationship just picks up exactly where it stopped, and I'm very grateful for that, and it's very cool. I keep using that term, but it's just so cool.
It really is, and it's like that for me when these big events, and it really is the only time I get to see people like you or the novellas or lots of the gang, we might say, and it is. It's like, oh, here we are again. What were we saying? And it's quite funny.
Right. I think the podcasts also provide a lovely opportunity to kind of stay in touch, on a weekly basis without staying in touch.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I know what you're up to. I know where you've been traveling, or whether it's Twitter or Facebook or whatever. Too, there is kind of this. You get a semblance of an idea of what a person's going through, and then when you catch up, you can say, "Hey, how was your trip to Colorado?" Or "How was your trip to?"
Yeah.
It's amongst the horrors that the new technology can provide. That's one of the few things that I think are really wonderful and valuable about social media, is that you really can have these kind of international relationships that can span miles and miles and years, and yet be just as real as any other kind of relationship you could have. It's
so interesting because when I was younger traveling the world, this simply didn't exist. But it's come along now, and I've seen the introduction of the internet as you have, and we are now so immersed in it. But we know the difference. And kids growing up now, the younger generation, the digital generation they call it, they simply don't know that there was how it was to be a time where you weren't always in touch with people anywhere. It's fascinating.
It's like I can't picture what it was like to not have a telephone. My grandparents could, and they knew what it was like to not have a telephone. And to me, it's like, I can't fathom not being able to call somebody. Well, now it's just, you can't fathom not to be able to instant message someone or tweet someone or whatever. That's the way it goes. It's there's a price for it. You lose a certain bit of intimacy or privacy or whatever. But if you're willing to pay it, gosh, you can have relationships like we have, and it's really interesting and fascinating.
Yeah, well, we'll see what the future brings, and I hope the future brings George Hrab back to Australia. In fact, I'm going to. I think we should put little wheels in motion, Gio. I think we should aim for that.
Sounds good. I'm all for little wheels.
Or maybe little aircraft in motion might be more practical.
Oh, okay. I guess that it might be a little bit more. Yeah, all for little wings. Yeah.
With little wings.
No, absolutely. Yeah, we'll make it happen.
Let's make it happen. Well, George Hrab, it's a pleasure to catch up with you as always. I can't wait to see you wherever that might be it here in Sydney or New York or Las Vegas for the amazing meeting or some strange other destination somewhere around the world. And for now, George Hrab, all the way over there in Pennsylvania, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to everybody, too. Bye.
You can get there by car in a day. It's super duper crazy far, but I just pulls out crazy as it stars. I mean, it's far, far, far. If there's some doubt, listen to a shout. This stuff is pretty damn far. Yeah! Thank you, everybody. Good day.
According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, America is experiencing one of the largest outbreaks of reported pertussis cases, also known as whooping cough, in approximately 50 years. Infants are particularly vulnerable to pertussis. Researchers found when it could be determined how an infant caught pertussis, family members were responsible for spreading the disease to the baby in up to 80% of cases. and parents were responsible up to 50% of the time. Emmy Award winner Sarah Michelle Gellar is not only a successful actress, but prides herself on being the best mom she can be. Now the mother of two, Sarah is working with the March of Dimes and Santa Fe Pasteur on the Sounds of Pertussis campaign to inspire others to get their adult Tdap pertussis vaccine to help protect themselves and help stop the spread of pertussis to the infants in their lives.
I've had a lot of exciting things happen in my life, but they all take a backseat to the birth of my two amazing children. No matter how busy I may get, my family and their health will always be my number one priority. When babies are born, they are at risk of becoming infected with pertussis, a highly contagious, vaccine-preventable disease. In adults and adolescents, the disease is typically milder, but in young babies, it can be potentially fatal. That's why I not only made sure that I was vaccinated against pertussis, but I asked my friends and family to get the vaccine as well. I decided to join March of Dimes and Santa Fe Pasteur in the Sounds of Pertussis campaign to help educate parents, grandparents, and any caregiver about the importance of getting vaccinated with the adult Tdap vaccine. The way I see it as parents, it's our responsibility to keep babies safe. And what better way to keep them safe than to help stop the spread of pertussis? I'm particularly excited about the campaign's new Facebook application, The Breathing Room. The Breathing Room allows parents to send a brief message to family members and caregivers to make a pledge to get vaccinated against pertussis.
The best way to help prevent pertussis is timely vaccination with the recommended pertussis vaccines. Learn more at soundsofpertussis.com and build your baby's own breathing room at soundsofpertussis.com/breathing room.
Welcome to A Week in Science from RiAus, bringing you the science news you need to know. This Week in Science saw the importance of little diggers, the death toll from air pollution, and amazing 3D X-rays of a rat's heart. The decline of little Aussie diggers may be degrading our ecosystems. Digging mammals like bilbies, bandicoots, potoroos and echidnas mix up nutrients and promote decomposition, improving nutrient-poor soils. Digging and scratching also improves water absorption, which decreases surface runoff and erosion. The gradual disappearance of digging species has stopped these excavating services, and our ecosystems suffer as a result. Could our inaction on greenhouse gas emissions kill people in the future? It's been estimated that in the year 2100, between 1.4 and 3 million premature deaths will be caused by air pollution. This assumes that no big global effort is made to improve air quality. There is a double benefit to cleaning up air pollution, which will also decrease greenhouse gas emissions and reduce the effects of climate change. You're listening to A Week in Science from RiAus, and now 4 science headlines in 30 seconds. Early Earth may have resembled Jupiter's volcanically active moon, Io. The oldest fossil with a recognisable face, including a modern jaw, has been found in China, dated at 419 million years, give or take a couple of days. Scientists at the Australian synchrotron have released a cool video of a 3D rat heart, and researchers have found that exposing you to scary things while you're asleep can reduce your fear of it when you're awake. On Tuesday, a major earthquake struck Pakistan, with a death toll in the hundreds and rising. One of the curious effects of this quake has been the formation of a new island off the coast. Pictures of this phenomenon have spread through social media. That's it for this A Week in Science. For more information on these and other science news stories, go to the RiAus website, riaus.org.au. Follow us on Twitter using the hashtag WeekInSci, and like us on Facebook. I'm Paul Willis. I'll catch you next week.
Hi, I'm Dr. Stefan Sojka of the Functioning Spinal Cord Research Institute. Every day in our clinics across the world, we see thousands of patients who have fully intact spinal cords and have absolutely no trouble walking or waving their arms about, thanks in no small part to the great work that we do here at the Institute and your generous donations. Keeping spinal cords intact is becoming more challenging by the day as YouTube, Facebook, LiveLeak and Vine's insatiable, voracious appetite for videos of young people acting like idiots entices an entire generation of young people to act like idiots and causing them to risk the possibility of never needing to visit the Functioning Spinal Cord Research Institute ever again. This poses a great threat to our share price, so we have had to take drastic action. Our hand-picked team of scientists, lyricists and musicologists have created the ultimate solution to maintaining a functioning spinal column, a 3.5-minute ditty called Mind Your Back. So mind your back, one bad accident your spine could crack. You may never get the feeling back, and your limbs are going to go real slack. You can wind up in a wheelchair, yeah, yeah. So be aware, take care, and mind your back. With an ingenious application of rhythm, rhyme, melody and harmonic progression, Mind Your Back will enter into the cerebral cortex of young people at risk of not having an intact spine, and just like Leonardo DiCaprio in Inception, will implant a new thought in their minds to decide not to do a parkour-inspired faceplant, triple somersault landing headfirst into concrete, or don a wingsuit and plough into the side of a cliff thinking that a caffeinated energy drink makes them immortal. And instead, step calmly away from the precipice, hitch a ride in a Volvo to one of our local Functioning Spinal Cord Research Institute clinics and join our patient program of mobile-limbed humans living long, healthy and fulfilling lives, waving their arms and legs about without the need for a robotic exoskeleton. Everyone has ever happened to, thought it would never happen to, then it always happened to someone else. Then you wake up in the spinal ward and find you stuffed your spinal cord, that someone else has now become your own, devastated and discriminated. Precious sores and phantom pains, never be able to walk again, remorseful and regretful and disdain, disabled self. Please help the Functioning Spinal Cord Research Institute to increase our intake of new patients by purchasing your copy of Mind Your Back today. Go to iTunes or Amazon and search Mind Your Back. And if you know anyone who might not be at risk of having a fully functioning spine, please email them the link, allowing us to infect their mind the way we have just infected yours. And mind your back. Everyone it's ever happened to thought it would never happen to them. You know it even happens to girls now and then. Trying to impress their friends, getting a little too drunk and acting a fool. Driving cars a little too dangerously, ignoring the road rules. One moment that you will regret forever doesn't have to be that way if you keep your head together. Spinal cord injury prevention is much easier than dealing with it when it's too late. One day technology might be able to fix it, but just like Superman, you really don't want to wait. So just mind your back. Mind your back. Mind your back. I'm Dr. Stefan Sojka. Mind your back. Mind your back.
The Canadian public has been poorly served by a government which displays little respect for objectivity and science. Canadians are taken advantage of through weak consumer protection regulations that allow the sale of products and services that don't work. And our media is all too willing to report dubious claims without examination if it will attract readers and sell advertising. Individual freedom of choice is being jeopardized as the unscrupulous or misinformed attempt to influence our important decisions. It's time for a change. Bad Science Watch is a new activist organization that will challenge the media, advertisers, and politicians when they promote unsound science that can threaten the well-being of Canadians. We will provide analysis of dubious scientific claims to you, our government, and the media, and campaign for policy decisions based on the best evidence available. We will take action to pressure politicians to enforce and strengthen consumer protection regulation. We will stand against the exploitation of you and your family by the peddlers of bad science. You can help us. Donate or pledge to support our campaigns and research efforts. Join our mailing list to receive action alerts and help affect real change. Tell your friends about us. Find out more at badsciencewatch.ca. Bad Science Watch. Important issues. Sound science. Real change.
Yes, Bad Science Watch. This is activism in Canada. And from Bad Science Watch on the line, all the way from Canada, I'm speaking to Michael Kruse. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Richard. It's great to be with you again.
Yes, it's been a long time, but I've been very happy to run the promotions for Bad Science Watch in Canada. I really do like it when people get together to try and affect change, especially when it comes to skepticism. But how's it all going?
Well, things couldn't be better. Well, things could always be better, but we're very happy with the outcome that we've had recently. It's been a very busy couple of years getting a new organization onto its feet, and recently we've had we're considering a great success with Health Canada, considering homeopathic nosodes.
Yes, tell me more about that, because this was the item of a recent press release saying Health Canada acts on the concerns of Bad Science Watch.
Yeah, indeed. So last time I spoke to you was about 2 years ago, and we had just announced one of our first projects, which is going to be trying to pressure Health Canada and the government of Canada to change its regulations around homeopathic nosodes. Now, for those of your listeners who don't know what nosodes are, I'm sure that many people are familiar with homeopathy, but nosodes specifically are made from the pus or tissue or infected discharge from an individual who has been infected with an infectious disease, like tuberculosis or measles or pertussis or indeed influenza. And the deal with these with homeopaths is that they are offering up these nosodes as possible vaccine replacements. In some cases, they're used to actually treat the disease, and in some other cases, there's a couple different programs in which they're offered up as a complete replacement for childhood vaccination schedules. So we, of course, were concerned about this, and what's even more concerning is in Canada is that these products are actually licensed by Health Canada. Not necessarily for this use, but we do know that they are being used as such. And we're trying to get Health Canada to admit that these products should not be used for vaccine replacements. We had a bit of a victory. In the spring, we put in a consultation to Health Canada in response to a monograph that they publish, which is supposed to aid in their approval of these products. Because many producers or natural health product producers actually produce the same ingredient in different packaging and different branding. But Health Canada thought, why are we reviewing 12 different applications for the same ingredient? Why don't we just come up with a way to streamline the process? If we've already gone through the process of approval, we can shorten it considerably. So these the device they use is called a monograph. And there is one for homeopathic nosodes. So we put in a consultation saying, we don't think these products should be licensed in the first place because they are being used as vaccine alternatives, which is dangerous and endangers the public, regardless of what they're used for otherwise. And in response to this, which is not a complete victory, we had hoped that the Health Canada would see the light and not actually license these products or pull the licenses from those products that have already been licensed. But what they did do is respond to our and hopefully others' criticisms, and they added the requirement for a new label that specifically says this product is not intended to be an alternative to vaccination. So we consider that certainly a victory, and it certainly is a shot across the bow for homeopaths who are offering these products in replacements for vaccinations.
It is. It's a step in the right direction because in this country, I think, yes, even last year we awarded our Bent Spoon Award, the dishonourable award, to a group of homeopaths here, and this issue's been going on for a long time here. Do you find you get a good hearing with the government with your concerns?
Well, I mean, we're a young organization and we're a grassroots organization. It means we're not professional lobbyists. We certainly got a response out of them, and which was, surprising considering they had not really been responsive to organizations of our kind in the past. The Natural Health Products Directorate, which is the subset or the subunit within Health Canada that actually does the natural health products regulation, is very largely influenced by industry. And there's not too many organizations speaking on the behalf of the public that are trying to get them to change their regulation or to affect their regulation. So we actually didn't have any direct response from Health Canada with our submissions. They didn't send us an email or a letter. We had to do a little bit of digging, and usually the monographs, when they're produced, there's an email sent out saying we've published our final version of it. That was not released for these homeopathic nosodes. They did speak to the homeopathic, the National Homeopathic, or the organization that represents homeopathic distributors and manufacturers, and in consultation with them added this label standard. So while we're very happy that they added it, their response to the grassroots is a bit disconcerting. And the larger issue is that, like you said, it is a small step. One of the problems with the regulation of natural health products in this country, in Canada, is that if you want to get your product licensed, all you have to do is choose an indication for the product that is of the lowest risk. Uh-huh. So regardless if your product is actually used for a high-risk thing like replacing vaccines, all you have to do is say, you know what, we don't need to say that. All we need to say on the license is that this product is to be used by as directed by a healthcare professional. And because you're using a lower-risk statement, your evidence for that product the requirement for evidence is considerably lower. This, of course, is not the standard used by the approval for drug products. So here's the game. You choose a low-risk statement, you get your product license, and then you convince the community through community publications, through professional publications, through health promotion magazines, that the product is actually used as a vaccine replacement. And then you can somehow circumvent the licensure for that high-risk indication, and still sell your product for how you intend it to be to be sold or to be used. So it's not a very strong regulation, unfortunately.
It's a push here by chiropractors. They want to be known or have the reputation as being primary healthcare people. So yes, if you have that cold or whatever the case may be, go see your chiropractor first. And also the chiropractors, or many of them, I should say, not all of them, but there certainly are some out there who are vehemently anti-vaccination. Do you find that in Canada too?
We have a much more reserved chiropractic community in Canada, and they have been very carefully crafting their message for the past 5 to 10 years to avoid that kind of controversy. Compared to the British Chiropractic Association and certainly what's happening in Australia, Canada has a much more reserved kind of approach with chiropractors. But what we've seen with chiropractic can certainly occur with naturopaths, homeopaths, acupuncturists, and traditional Chinese medicine practitioners as well. So we're trying to get ahead of the problem, but unfortunately the horse is out of the barn in many of these cases.
Yeah, it's not an easy job to do. It's like what President Kennedy said about going to the moon. We choose to do these things not because they're easy, because they're hard.
Yes, although I would like it to be a bit easier. I mean, part of this natural health product regulation that's occurring in Canada is because of the mainstreaming of these other professions. Naturopaths in BC and Ontario are arguing actually for broadening their prescription capabilities and in order to use mainstream drugs in their practice. Now, this is ironic because, I mean, one of the organizations in Ontario is called the Drugless Practitioners Organization. They eschew mainstream pharmaceuticals and the kind of theory that goes behind it, but they want to get their hands on prescribing very commonly prescribed medications like non-steroidal anti-inflammatories or antibiotics in order to make them a primary care practitioner. And many of the amino acids and other kind of more dangerous things like foxglove and other kind of more dangerous herbs were going to be now regulated under the Natural Health Practitioners Directorate, and so the scope of practice had to be changed in order to reflect that. So this is all going hand in hand. We're seeing, 60,000 products right now approved by the Natural Health Products Directorate, which is an enormous amount compared to pharmaceuticals. And that's going hand in hand with the mainstreaming of naturopathy, homeopathy, and other kind of more dubious alternative medicine. So it is a difficult job. Certainly Bad Science Watch is, I think, one of the few organizations in Canada actually looking at this issue. Most of the other organizations that are doing science advocacy work are looking at the more mainstream issues. But the fringe scientific issues, because they're not being opposed, are gaining a foothold, and we're trying very hard to fight against that action.
Well, you and I will never be out of a job, Michael. I can promise you that.
It's very true. It's very, very true. My other job, my full-time job is as a paramedic. So, while you shake your head at people who are doing kind of dumb things and get themselves in position, I wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for those kind of circumstances. And unfortunately, one can look at it for science advocacy as well, right? The anti-science or scientific ignorance runs deep in society, and we're trying our best to counter it.
We are trying, and I'm glad that there are organizations like Bad Science Watch out there, just concerned citizens really, getting together to try and make a difference. And the website again is...
badsciencewatch.ca is our main website. If you're interested in the nosodes problem, we have a very sort of comprehensive website that lays out all the arguments called stopnosodes.org. Nosodes is spelled Nosodes. And you can certainly go there and get the full picture of why we're arguing against these products. And you can certainly see badsciencewatch.ca. Check us out on Twitter at Bad Science Watch, Facebook /Bad Science Watch. I think we're on Google Plus as well, so you can check out Bad Science Watch there. We'd certainly like your input. We're looking for volunteers, and we're always looking, of course, for donations, because this costs money to do this kind of work, and it's very hard to do without it.
Well, all power to you, Michael. Glad to talk with you, and that's the word, folks. And, well, you can just Google Bad Science Watch, and you're bound to find the information you're seeking. All the way from Canada, Michael Kruse, thank you very much.
Thank you much again, Richard.
Have you heard the one about how the Illuminati, in conjunction with the US government, are hiding the existence of aliens in order to ensure the supply of helium is kept low? Or that the CIA, the militant wing of the Freemasons, are working with the Elders of Zion to take control of the population of the world through fluoridated chemtrails? Canberra Skeptics Incorporated, on behalf of the Shadow Government, will be massing an array of dark forces for the Australian Skeptics National Convention 2013. This convention has conspired to coincide with the 50th anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy, possibly the most famous conspiracy theory of all time. If you've ever wanted to learn about the truth behind the death of JFK, what makes for a good conspiracy theory and why they are so prevalent, Canberra Skeptics invites you to attend. That is, of course, should you choose to accept it. Come to nationalskepticsconvention.org and just remember, they will be watching you.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. And thank you to those people who keep writing to me saying how much they enjoyed Solar Flare. In fact, Stefan Sojka, Dr. Stefan, has even commented to me that he meets people who stop him and say they really enjoyed Solar Flare. You can, if you haven't heard Solar Flare, our great space adventure, starring the Skeptic Zone gang and special guests George Hrab and Brian Dunning and Geo. Music is in there, all sorts of things. Go to www.skepticzone.tv, scroll down past the show notes to this episode, and you'll see the link to Solar Flare. And yes, we are working on the next adventure, the next episode, about a third written. These things take time. Trust me, these things take time. Now here's a quick note for anybody anywhere in the world. If you would like me to promote your skeptical group, please let me know. If you send me a 30-second audio promo, work on it, make sure it's good quality and sounds pretty snappy. I'm bound to play it. I like to support skeptical groups all around the world, and listeners to the Skeptic Zone certainly know that. There's the invitation. If you want me to promote your skeptical group, let me know. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off. Okay, one more time. Here we go. Ready? Heads or tails? Tails. This is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.